Right then, let's have a chat. Let's have a heart to heart. I have tried to record this video once over and it just felt like, I don't know, I try and write ideas down when it comes to videos like this and then it just doesn't seem natural. So we are literally just gonna have a chat this video. That's what this video is. Hi everyone, I'm the EnglishSimmer and let's have a talk about The Sims 4. I've tried to have this chat on Twitter and I should just learn not to run my mouth on Twitter because, like, there's character limits and I feel like I can't really get what I'm trying to say across in character limits. I'm a bit of a rambler, we all know that. Basically, on Twitter the other day, I was talking about how eco-living went down, how the announcement went down. A lot of the community seem to not be a fan of this newer expansion, and I myself have my own hesitations about it. I discussed it in my reaction trailer. If you want to go watch that trailer reaction, I will link it like up in that corner. I do have my own worries and thoughts about this expansion pack, and most of them kind of reflect what I was seeing in my Twitter replies, but then a lot of people thought that I was fully supportive of this expansion, which that wasn't the case. So basically, we're going to talk about eco-living, we're going to talk about the response to it. This was also heavily inspired by Plumbella's video. I know she did one discussing the reaction to eco-living, so I'm going to link that down below. She had some amazing thoughts, and we're kind of on the same page with this one, so I want to give a shout out to Jessie. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it. She is way more like precise and to the point than I am. I'm a bit more of a rambler, but hey, that's why I have an English language degree. Also, before we do get into this, I know I'm gonna get comments that like, you're a game changer, this affects how you think of The Sims 4, this affects your feedback. Honestly, I try and be as open and honest with you guys when it comes to my feedback, my reactions, how I feel about things. I always have been. First and foremost, I'm a player of The Sims. I want The Sims 4 to be the best that it can be, and I don't feel like it's in that position right now, which is why I'm making this video. I also know I'm gonna get comments like, why haven't you talked about this before? Why haven't these issues been brought up in your videos before? They have, on and off, they definitely have. They've also been brought up with the gurus whilst I've been at events. You guys unfortunately don't get to see the behind the scenes of those events very often, but we have feedback sessions pretty much every Sims camp we go to. I've also given feedback to even higher ups in EA, minus the Sims team, like literally from other games, from Battlefield to FIFA, everything in between. So these feedback sessions have happened with the people who create the games and also other games outside of The Sims as well, because a lot of games have the same issues. So I know that I'm gonna get comments like, you've never brought these up before, why now? And honestly, the thing is, I'm quite a positive person, I'm pretty optimistic. Maybe I always had that hope that the feedback was gonna be listened to eventually and we would start to see a change. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case right now in how The Sims 4 is playing out and has been playing out for the last 6 years. And also, the more packs that we're getting, the more packs that are being released, they're kind of stacking on top and they're just making the core problems of The Sims 4 for me personally more and more known. Like, I'm noticing them way more than I would with like a couple of different packs installed rather than everything we have up until this date. Also, if you're a viewer of mine, you kind of already know, but I never really like answering the question, do you think I should buy this pack? Is this pack worth it? Because my belief is that we all play the game differently. If a pack looks interesting to you and you've like watched enough videos on it, then you're probably going to enjoy playing it. And I never really like telling people where to spend their money because we all play things differently. So my reviews tend to be more of a, here's what you get in the pack, now you decide if you want it, rather than a, I think you should buy this for a specific reason. I don't give ratings or anything like that because I don't think that my opinion reflects everyone within the community. So the first major issue I'm gonna talk about, and probably the most relevant to eco-living and the brand new pack announcement, is the fact that it feels like packs are being broken off into different packs. We've had a slight eco hint in Laundry Day stuff, although it definitely wasn't enough. That kind of like tickled my fancy, but then I was like, ooh, I want some more eco-friendly things. I was really hoping that that was going to be fully eco-focused, and unfortunately that didn't win the first community voted stuff pack, and it then became laundry, which I was kind of a little bit salty about, I'm not gonna lie. So then we also got seasons, which had an upgrade of gardening, also introduced bees, which again, all about like sustainability, living off the land, which I enjoyed. Wasn't heavily focused on in seasons though, kind of just got an update. Then we had island living, which is kind of next to eco living, seems to be the biggest part of this. We got the conservationist career. We also had work on the island, make the island look better, and the environment around you changes. However, it was very heavily invested in that one world. And then we also, obviously, most recently had tiny living, which technically didn't have a lot of like the eco stuff. That was more like sustainability, and if you have a smaller house, you're obviously helping the environment a bit more, and therefore you'll have your bills knocked off and you'll get like a few positive interactions happening in your Sims life. So we've kind of had a sprinkle of eco-ness through all of those packs. However, I can see why people are now annoyed, and I personally said this in my trailer reaction. I don't know how to feel about this pack yet. I'm gonna have to see more. We got a 1 minute 30-second trailer, and it definitely didn't seem to show off all of the gameplay. I definitely think there's more details to be seen. We already know that the community lot, the ever-changing community lot that we saw that can be voted on, that is applicable to all worlds. One of the sim gurus actually confirmed that over on Twitter, which makes me very happy personally. Would I spend $40 on that for an expansion just for that one feature? Probably, because I want that feature. I've been saying I wanted that feature, but I can see why people are disagreeing with this, because they're like, well, we've kind of had hints of it, so why are we having eco again? And I really do hope that this is the last time it happens, because one, news exhaustion, like, oh my god, we've had 4 packs about this, and if people are getting sick of it in The Sims, then I can only imagine, like, actual real world. Like, sometimes I just don't want to be reminded that the world is dying, you know? Basically what I was saying is, we've had this a lot in The Sims, and I don't want people to get bored of it in The Sims and then carry that over to real life, because if you get bored of it in real life, like, the world is a pretty big issue right now, and all these eco stuff, like, is very relevant, and I don't want people to have that fatigue of not caring about it in real life because they've played out in The Sims so much. It wasn't meant to be a, oh, I don't care about the earth. It was meant to be a, let's stop caring about it in The Sims 4 so that people don't stop caring about it in real life, if that makes sense. And then also in the most recent survey, I literally said, wow, they feel as if they are splitting up these themes, and it felt very weird. I said it in my video. So in that survey, we had to basically rank what gameplay features we would have been invested in, and cheer was up there, which is like cheerleading and cheer teams, American high school, malls, and I was like, why are these separate? Why are we ranking these against each other? Because that kind of sounds like they're scoping out an idea of, hey, we could do this American teen high school, which could be great, could give teenagers that opportunity to have gameplay that make them feel more like teenagers, which I am so desperately wanting. However, why would you do an American high school without cheer and then also without malls, but then give those to us at a later date? Just add those 3 together in an expansion pack and boom, I would be happy. Why they were listed individually, I will never know, but it kind of, in my opinion, reflects how The Sims 4 has been for a while now. And I think another issue with this is, for me, I have always said to the Sims team, we need more transparency. We need to know as players why a decision has been made. And maybe we're not allowed to know. Maybe that's the end of it. Maybe EA are like, you know what? We're a business at the end of the day. We're gonna make business decisions. Our players don't need to know the ins and outs of our business, which is fair enough. I mean, True. We don't need to know everything. The Sims community is so passionate, and I think sometimes we do feel like we need to know the ins and outs, but sometimes we have to accept that we are just a consumer and we don't get to see the ins and outs of that, no matter how close with the team we might be. They're a business and they want to keep their business a secret sometimes, which, fair enough. I hold my hands up and say, EA, fair play to you. But just when we feel jaded, it feels like there's this massive conversation online about why is this happening? Like, why are these packs being split up so much? And they don't want to focus on that negativity, and we never really get an answer. Even if one of the gurus came along and said, hey, we're not really allowed to talk about it, I'd be like, you know what? Fair enough. If you're not allowed to talk about it, you've noticed that this is a conversation that's happening, you've seen people get upset over it, and you are then giving us some insight into either why you're not talking about it and why it's being ignored, which I would prefer that. I would prefer a straight up, sorry guys, not allowed to talk about it, to a, oh, we don't see that conversation, so we're just going to brush that under the rug. We need more transparency when it comes to those things, even if we're not allowed to know the ins and outs. That's perfectly acceptable for me. And then I've been thinking, is it because they've kind of changed the structure of pack releases in The Sims 4? So in The Sims 3, we used to have the Sims 3 store, which I'm not complaining about. I'd never want to see a store again for The Sims 4. It was such a ripoff. It was so expensive. But I felt like the store kind of did what Sims 4 stuff packs do, kind of introduce one main gameplay item that you could play with and it would change gameplay slightly, and then the rest was just like decorative stuff and things that you could find around the home, which is kind of what Sims 4 stuff packs are. And I know that Plumbella did a whole video about this, and she made a really great point of game packs seem to be doing too much and expansions seem to be doing too little. And it definitely seems like the introduction of game packs has kind of taken away slightly the spotlight and the polished feel of an expansion. Because in reality, game packs sometimes do it better than expansions. I feel like an expansion should expand on the whole game, whereas game packs can have that soul-focused gameplay, whereas expansions are now starting to feel more like just slightly bigger game packs in the sense that they're not really affecting the rest of the world around The Sims. So take Get to Work, for example. It was the very first expansion. I'm not going to deny that. It was messy. I really don't play with it too much, but we have a doctor's, we have a hospital, yet when our Sims get sick, we can't take them to the hospital. We can just drink orange juice or buy medicine online. Why can't we take them to the hospital? There is a police career, but there are no NPC police. Our Sims can't get arrested. We have a prison. We have a jail. Our Sims can't get arrested. If you are playing as that policeman, you can arrest people, and then you can go out 2 seconds later and they're roaming the streets a free man. Excuse me, what is this? America? Yes, because The Sims is an American simulation game right now, but that's beyond the point. And we also saw it in the survey back in January when the team kind of suggested or hinted that they may be looking to scope out a kind of winter wonderland pack based in maybe like the Swiss Alps with snowboarding and pond skating. Why weren't those snow activities just added into seasons, you know, when we got snow? The ponds freeze. Can we skate on them? No. There's an ice rink that appears every so often, but you can't skate on those ponds. You can't go snowboarding. The only snowy activities that I can actually remember from seasons are building a snow pile, having a snowball fight, and also making a snow angel. I don't think you can interact with the snow in any other way. Why can't we buy a snowboarding ramp? Why can't we ice skating on ponds like the survey suggested? They just feel like they've really left out big bits of expansion packs. If you go back and look at the list of features for a Sims 3 expansion pack and then look at a feature list of a Sims 4 expansion pack, it breaks my heart. I did it for a video where I basically ranked all of the expansions for any Sims ever, And I went back and looked at the list, and I physically heard my heart break, because I was just like, wow, you don't really notice it until you go back and look at what you once had, you know? They do say you don't know what you got till it's gone. And then I went back and looked at what was gone, and boy, the list was big. And the reality is, we're 6 years into it now, and I unfortunately don't think it's going to get better. I think no matter how much the community says they want change and they want more depth, I think we're 6 years too late, unfortunately, and that really sucks. And it makes me kind of feel bad as a game changer, and why didn't I notice this earlier? And the thing is, we have had conversations. We had conversations about island living. We've had conversations about get to work, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's too little too late, unfortunately, and that does kind of make me feel pretty shitty, because I'm like, maybe I should have noticed this earlier. Maybe I should have been giving this feedback earlier, so I can see if people are angry at me. Fair enough. Be angry at me. We all make mistakes, guys. Everybody has those days. And I do wish that these things would have been easier to see for me a little bit earlier. And speaking of consequences, I've talked about this a lot. The game just does not have consequences in general. Your Sims all feel the same. The trait system is very shoddy, I feel like. If you give your Sims these negative traits, there's not really anything negative about them. The Sims 4 is very happy-go-lucky. It's a very happy game. Nothing ever really happens outside of your control. I mean, you could have Sims divorce and then they can high-five each other within the next 5 minutes. There's nothing really to have consequences in relationships, in their work, in their career. There's no negatives, I feel like, in The Sims 4, and this is an issue I have always talked about. It's an issue that I've talked about in the surveys. They don't have personality, and I would really love to see that introduced in The Sims 4. I actually saw someone comment, I would pay for a pack that just fixes the major problems that we have in The Sims 4, and I don't think a lot of people would. I think a lot of people are expecting these as free updates, but again, I unfortunately can't see all of these coming as free updates. I can see a romance pack happening, and I can see a MC Command Center pack happening, or a story progression pack happening, and I really don't want it to. I think if we're getting these big new features, I think some, maybe most of them should be free, because I do feel like they should have been in since base game, and they are these big systems that are lacking in The Sims 4, and it's what's driving the community to be more and more angry when packs are announced, because they're like, well, we have all of these issues that, yeah, adding something new and shiny is fun for the first 2 months, and then it's right back to the same old game that we've always been playing. So I don't think there's enough consequence of actions. I think traits are very heavily based on the emotion system, which we'll get onto in a minute. So basically the traits that you pick in The Sims 4, they either go one of two ways. So they either have an effect on emotions, how your Sim feels most of the time. If you have a creative Sim, they're feeling quite inspirational all of the time. If you have a smart Sim, they have more of a chance of getting a focused emotion. So they don't really determine how your Sim reacts or how your Sim acts to others, like autonomously or anything like that. They just have an effect on emotions. Or it goes the other way and you have like one or two specific interactions or idle interactions, which kind of make your Sim seem like they have personality, but really it's just like if you give your Sim the paranoid trait, they'll just be like this and they'll be looking shifty, and they'll also be able to discuss a couple of unlocked interactions because of their trait. But again, that's not meaningful gameplay. Having a couple of interactions where your Sim can chat to someone about something different, that's not really changing who my Sim is at the core of that Sim. The same can absolutely be said for aspirations. Actually, right before this video, and again, this is salt in the wound right here, I was like, I wonder how many base game aspirations there were in The Sims 3. So I went through and I counted, and there were 32 Sims 3 aspirations just in base game alone. And then every expansion that we got for The Sims 3, on average, and some of them introduced 3, some of them introduced 4, on average, I would hazard a guess that each expansion for The Sims 3 added 5 to 7 aspirations. I then compared that against The Sims 4, and in The Sims 4 base game, we had 24 aspirations, and then we, on average, in an expansion pack, we get 1 to 2 on average. And that sucks. That really sucks. And the issue I have with aspirations in The Sims 4 especially is they either seem to be career focused. Don't get me wrong, we have some that aren't. We have like the wealthy ones where you need to have enough money in reserves and you need to build a grand house, which do actually affect your gameplay. Like if you give your sim that aspiration, you're grand. You actually have to sort out those things. Whereas the ones that I'm not mad about having ones for the career because they exist in The Sims 3 as well. Actually, a lot of the base game ones for The Sims 3 were to do with careers. So I'm not angry about those either. It's kind of the newer ones that are introduced with the pack. They don't do much. They basically are a guide through the expansion, which, I mean, we don't need that. We're Sims players. Most of us have played this game since 2000. We know how The Sims works. We like to be able to figure out the game ourselves. We don't need an aspiration to walk us through every single step of the way. The only one I agreed with was the Strangeville one, because that was very heavily based on do this action to trigger the next step in the whole mystery and then do that and do that. That's fine. Island living, I don't need a tutorial on how to live on an island. University, I don't need a tutorial on how to go to university. If I needed a tutorial, I would go to the tutorial section of the game and I would look up a tutorial. I do not need that as an aspiration. And then once you're done with it, it's kind of like, cool, that was my one big lifetime thing. And you can change it at any time in The Sims 4, which I like. I love that freedom. You can do multiple in The Sims 4, which you couldn't really do, I don't think, in any other Sims game. So that's a big A+, but what's the point of having that when most of the aspirations, most of the interesting ones, came with base game and we've already been playing with them for the last 6 years? Aspirations need a rework, and fast. And then on to the emotions, which, again, all of these are major issues, but emotions, that's a big old boy. That's a big old major problem. So I think emotions is definitely one of those things where the flaws in that system have become more and more prominent as the game has aged, as we've added more emotions onto it, as you have more moodlets affecting these emotions, you really do notice that that system just does not work for The Sims 4, because as you add more traits and more kind of feelings to the game and interactions that are affected by emotions or that affect emotions, see, even I'm getting confused talking about it, but they start to stack up and you can have a whole rainbow of emotions, and then it's kind of this power play between which emotion is going to win out. But as you add more in and it becomes a big mix, you don't really have any one defining one. So emotional deaths have become harder. Emotional deaths are my favourite thing about having emotions in the game. I'm going to throw it out there. Having my Sims enraged and them stomping around and being like, they could have a cardiac arrest out of anger at any moment. That's my favorite thing about the emotion system. But even that is really hard to do as we get more and more, because they're just kind of fighting for power, and then they're fighting so hard that they just cancel each other out and then become completely irrelevant. So there we have it. Those are kind of my big major problems that I currently have with The Sims 4, and unfortunately, I don't know if any of these are gonna be fixed. I know we've had surveys recently that kind of suggest that maybe the team are looking into these things and do want to try and fix them for us, but in reality, we're 6 years into this game, and if The Sims 5 is on the cards, I think I would prefer them, and this is basically condemning The Sims 4 to death, but I would prefer them just to take that feedback and how the community are really feeling right now and apply that to The Sims 5 and see where they did go wrong and how in the next generation we can sort those things out. And I know that the community is angry right now and sad. Trust me, I want The Sims 4 to be the best that it can be, but I realistically don't think these things are gonna get fixed in the lifetime of The Sims 4. Like, I know it's a live service, and I know that the team are constantly always working on it. It's why we get free patch updates. It's why we get expansions 2 times a year and other packs in between. But I think if they keep working on packs, these core features are never really going to get the chance to be fixed. Whereas if they stop making packs, I feel like a lot of players are going to be like, well, why am I still playing this game if we're not getting new content and they're just fixing the old? So I don't know. What would you guys prefer? Would you prefer the Sims team to realistically take like a year and a half off releasing a pack and have them do updates for fixing things? Or would you prefer like these new packs to maybe just take on the feedback and the criticism that people have and become bigger? Would that be better for you? I would really love to hear your opinion on this, because honestly, I can't see which way it's going to go. I don't know what impact these surveys are going to have. Obviously, I hope that they have an impact, because I do want to see The Sims 4 improve itself, because to me it is quite a fun game. It's playable, it's usable. I just have to work a little bit too hard sometimes to make it feel like an individual story when I'm playing a new family. Also a lot later now, and excuse the bit of chocolate, I had an ice lolly after dinner, but this is something that I kind of want to get your guys' opinions on, because this kind of affects us as creators and game changers. When we get invited to events, they never have the other like packs or expansions installed, and I think that was really shown off in university, because none of us really had an answer whether university would work with the calendar and like schedules, and there was kind of this mishmash of information because we had tried to ask the gurus, but then some people managed to get full footage, most people didn't. And then I wanted to know from you guys, would you prefer when we go to these recording events and we're like checking out a new pack, would you prefer them to install all the other packs as well so that we can see how a new expansion works with pre-existing content? Or do you prefer it just being base game and the new pack so that we can show off the features of the new pack without getting confused? Because I reckon some people who don't have the other packs would be like, oh, that's a new feature. Like, say if they didn't have like seasons, they'd be like, oh my god, Rain's coming with this. And it's like, no, Rain came with seasons, but this is how seasons affects this new pack, if you catch my drift. So that's just something I want to throw out to you guys, and maybe you can get back to me in the comments, because I've talked with SimGuru Frost about this, and he's like, if you feel like you want those other packs installed, like, let me know. And I've never really known how to answer that, because I don't know whether you guys would appreciate it or not, because I don't feel like at preview events I can see how an expansion works with previous packs unless I specifically like flag over a guru and I'm like, hey, how does this specific thing work with this other specific expansion pack? So let me know how you feel about that down below. Would you like me to ask them for future events to have all the packs, or just focus on the base game and the new one? That would be a real big help. That's pretty much all I have to say. I feel like I got a lot off my chest. I feel like I am a new woman, and I really do hope that this isn't seen as an attack on The Sims 4, because it's not. It's me wanting The Sims 4 to finally face what is happening and to kind of better itself, at least for the next few years. If we're getting a Sims 5, then at this point it's going to be a welcome thing for me. Even though I do like The Sims 4, I like to play it. I even liked Island Living. A lot of people didn't. I personally enjoyed it. Mermaids, ooh, they were hard done by. Mermaids should have deserved some love in Island Living, man. So yeah, I hope this isn't seen as an attack. I hope if the Sims team are watching this, I hope it's not seen as like a I hate The Sims 4 because I love this game and I just want it to do better. I just want to see these things hopefully be fixed, but let me know how you guys feel about all of this. I know it was a lot. I'm gonna try and edit this as much as I can. I hope it kind of cleared up a few things on where I stand on The Sims 4 at the minute. I know it's very confusing. It's a bizarre time right now. So yeah, just getting to talk about The Sims 4 is quite fun, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye guys. I've got my finger trapped in my, that's how you can tell I'm nervous recording this. Like look at my finger. I've had it trapped in my bobble. That's why I couldn't say bye. Anyway, see ya. I'm going. I'm gone. I've talked too much.